noticed you have beef calves.
I do.
Why beef cattle?
That's a great question. I love cattle. When we first started, we had a bunch of different animals. We had rabbits, chickens, pigs, and beef, which I always wanted to do because I was a Salatin follower from Virginia. And so he runs all those simultaneously. And as time went on, I've dropped those animals because I really like doing beef and I have a connection to it and I've gotten good at it.
And what variety of beef cattle did you choose and why?
I chose these because they were cheap and I found them in the area. So I knew they were adapted and grass-fed to this environment. So I knew they would work. And the guy just let them roam free and did whatever. And I paid, the price is right, I paid about $1,000 per pregnant cow. That's cheap because they're not pedigreed and they're not registered. But why do I need registered animals? I'm not selling for breeding stock, I'm selling meat. So
Jason, as a young and beginning cattle producer, what kind of infrastructure did you need to get going and to really start having a safe and productive herd?
Well, the biggest thing with cattle I needed was a fence. So this farm had a pre-existing fence, which is basically I bought from the previous farmers that were here. It's a high tensile fence, so it's really flexible. I've had many trees fall on it. It's never broken.
And
it runs around the entire, most of the property. The parts that aren't covered by the high tensile fence, I have temporary poly wire up. And honestly, this probably could come down for the summer because I only use this field in the winter, but it's just easy to leave it up. It lasts a long time. This will last probably 10 years. So the biggest thing I needed for infrastructure is a fence, and then the other thing I need is access to water.
Where's your water?
The water is there, some of it. The water, there's a couple streams around here, and I'm having some ponds dug because we're in a drought again this year and I need more water. So that's another big limiting factor is how I can move this much water, 200 or 300 gallons a day, every day to these animals. And that takes a lot of thinking and a lot of paper and a lot of drawing and a lot of messing up.
So Jason, is this your tractor?
This is not my tractor, no. So I have someone come and custom make all my hay. I have someone come take my ponds for me. I have someone come move my animals, transport them for me. And the reason for that is because I don't want to own these things because they cost a lot of money.
So one question that I have, because I see this a lot, getting started, obviously you're not selling animals right from the get-go.
2 years.
Took you 2 years. How much money going in would you estimate that somebody, or access to money, would you say that somebody who wants to get into beef production in a low infrastructure way like you would need to get going and to sort of keep things going during that period?
Probably startup costs, if you're renting land, $20,000 to $30,000.
Like up front, you would?
Yeah, to buy your herd.
Yeah.
So let's say you want to buy a herd of 10, there's $10,000. And let's just say you want to get 5 years rent. You're paying $2,000 a year rent. That's another 10, so $20,000 plus materials. So yeah, $20,000 to $30,000.
And that's before you see any money coming back.
Yeah, but that's a micro loan as far as USDA is concerned. So,
right, but would you need to service that loan during that period?
I mean, so that's a really good question. You'd have to be paying that off, yeah. So you have to think so off-farm jobs are probably what you're going to be doing unless you have more to cover that.
And so do you have an off-farm job?
I do. I work for Cornell. So this is a semi-permanent fence here. It just basically separates summer from winter pastures. When I first started this enterprise, Cornell recommended I just use this side of the pasture. And what I quickly realized is that it needs more rest than that. So we've added on this side of the pasture to use. And this has changed. The composition of these fields has changed just from their energy being on it.
Well, and actually, speaking of techniques, you mentioned something about Cornell said to graze this, and now you're moving stuff over here. What Cornell did you work with, or what kind of assistance did you get?
I talked to Mick Bessier. I don't even know how I ran into Mick. I don't know how I found him, but I did. He came out and he did a full grazing plan for me, soil testing, talked about, and so the really neat thing about it is the first plan he gave me, I didn't follow. 2 years later, I looked back at the plan, I was doing exactly what he told me to do.
Yeah.
So I may have, again, it's that give and take. So
Yeah.
I did what I wanted to try, and I ended up doing exactly what he told me to do anyway.
Yeah, I think there's a program, Ag Environmental Management through the state that Mick was working with they do those types of plans for farmers. And I think my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that those plans are the basis then for going for cost share technical assistance for environmental.
You got to have them out here to see what's going on before they'll give you any money, definitely. But it's also good. Mac became a mentor for me, and he's the kind of guy. He was there in good times and bad times. So like he helped me when things were really going right, and then everybody had some tough winters, and his emails really pushed me through that really hard winter.
Yeah.
He believed in what I was doing, and he said I was doing a good job, and it meant the world to me.
Good.
So. This is
What kind of tools would you use to assess if you had a good packager?
Okay, so you got to know what you have in for grass species, and that's where Cornell and the NRCS can really help you with that. Or, guidebook. I look at everything as being forage. So there are weeds in here, quote unquote, but those weeds do have nutritional quality, and if you trample them onto the ground, they add organic matter. So I'm not going to go out here and spray the weeds down or cut them down, because that just takes up time and really doesn't serve me. This is a grazing stick the NRCS gives out for free if you can get a hold of one. If you go to certain events, and it tells you literally when you should graze to what height you should graze to, and if you've gone too far, you don't want to go below this line. So you take a walk around, you check. I mean, you look at this here. Let's say that's grazing. That's over a foot of forage. We recommend you take the top 3 inches off, and that's great. You want this animal to be in here just long enough to take a bite and move on and then come back. This thing this does, which is a little more technical, is it can estimate the yield per acre of the matter you have out here. And it's a little technical to show on tape now, but there's good videos online. Basically, you slide the stick through the grass, and you count how many dots you can see on the top of that stick. And that tells you how many pounds per inch you have out here.
So if you can't see any dots.
If you can't see any dots, you're doing well. So 250 to 300 pounds per inch of dry matter. So that's 12 inches. So we're talking a lot of grass to eat. The first thing I did, that Mick did for me, which I was actually absent when Mick did it because I was working my other job, is he came out with a probe and he took soil samples for me. So what he did is, most of this property is the same type of soil. So what he did is he came out with a bucket and the probe and maybe took, probably 10 different samples. Like getting this in the ground. This area is a bit compacted here because the cows walked over it, but it could be a lot worse. And he'll pull that soil sample out and put it in the bucket. And then what happens is once you get enough of these samples in here.
Yeah, and generally I think they recommend about per acre taking about 12 samples.
Yeah, you take a lot. You really want to take a bunch of steps around. Let's see if it goes in any easier over here without as compacted. Yeah.
So you can see the difference in soil compaction.
Yeah. So and like another thing to look at is how dry the soil is. This is how we are in a drought. That's dust. This should be wet. So yeah, once you get all your samples, you bag them up in a special little box that Cornell has and send it off for your $12 soil sample.
Right. The key is random, representative,
Yep.
and enough samples so that you're getting, a representative sort of snapshot of that field.
Yep, and mix it all up. And they even have a pattern that will walk a lightning bolt through your field pattern. So
yeah,
we have a whole packet for you if you come to the office. We do the whole packet, and you can rent one of these.
Yeah.